Now and then. Good evening, everyone. Call the regular meeting of the District Board of November 10th, 2025 at 5:32. And John, would you please call the roll?
Curry.
Here.
Adel.
Here.
Anderson.
Here.
Adesian.
Here.
Pisano. Buell.
Here.
Bush.
Here.
Desai.
Here.
Bella.
Here.
Drake.
Here.
Gale.
Here.
Bordeaux.
Here.
Gentile.
Here.
Healy.
Here.
Hoffman.
Here.
Hohab. Johnson. LaChance.
Here.
Lester.
Here.
Lewis.
Here.
Magnan. Mandyke.
Here.
Maniscalco. Payne.
Here.
Patel. Salemi.
Here.
Taylor.
Here.
Torini.
Here.
Torres.
Here.
Wolf.
Here.
Carrier. We have a quorum.
Thank you, John. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move on with the meeting. I would like to take a moment of silence for the passing of Jean Holloway. And I'm going to read a proclamation that was put together. Whereas Georgina Holloway was a long-serving commissioner of the Metropolitan District for 11 years, from 2014 to 2025. Whereas Commissioner Holloway served the MDC Community Affairs Committee from 2015 and 2018 to 25, serving as vice chair in 2023 and chairman from 2024 and 2025. Committee on MDC Government from 2016 to 2025, Water Bureau from 2017 to 2025, Farmington River Watershed Committee from 2018 to 2022, General Policy and Planning Committee from 22 to 23, Internal Audit Committee from 24 to 25, and serving as vice chairwoman from 2024 and 2025, and Bureau of Public Works from 2024 to 25, and Strategic Planning from 24 to 25. Whereas during her tenure on the district board, Commissioner Holloway capably, diligently, enthusiastically fulfilled her responsibilities to the citizens of Hartford of the entire metropolitan district. Now, therefore, that in grateful recognition of her years of commitment to public service, on behalf of the members of the district board, we express our sincere appreciation for Commissioner Holloway's many years of faithful and devoted service to the metropolitan district and its constituents. Signed, Chairman Curry. So if we could just take a moment of silence, please.
That's really nice. They honored the lady who worked on that board.
Thank you. One thing I would like to add is that the service was performed by her brother, the minister, and for those of us that attended, it was probably the most moving service that I've ever attended. And a lot of questions came up throughout her illness before her passing, and her brother tried to explain the fact that there were so many people who were upset that Jean had not told them of her illness or how serious the illness was until very late in the process. And the minister summed it up in just a few words and we all know Jean, but she did it her way. And Jean knew the way, and she was going to be okay. And I just thought that was just so beautiful, and I just wanted to share that with you. So.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
she's going to be, her family's going to be presented with the chair passing.
We will be contacting the family to be sure that they will accept a chair, and if so, then certainly one will be given on her behalf. Approval of minutes of October 6th, 2025.
Move adoption.
Questions, Deletions, additions, revisions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carried. Public comments relative to agenda items. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board on agenda items? Seeing none, move on to number 6, independent consumer advocate comments and questions relative to agenda items. Liz?
No, none, thank you.
All right, thank you. Report from district chairman, I have nothing to report. Number 8, report from chief executive officer, update on recent revenue bond sale.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a few items I'm just gonna go through very quickly. We're gonna have we are a multicultural diversity committee, which makes up more than 20 people at the MDC. We have a Thanksgiving food drive ongoing. It actually ends the 15th, which I think was today the 15th?
Today's 10th.
15th. And so anyone can give food and or cash money donations. So we encourage everyone, MDC employees and commissioners, that they would like to donate. We have you can donate right here at the front desk with Julie or Victoria, and we will be donating that to food shelters in our community. We can't give donations to every shelter in every town, but we will do as much as we can for the community. I just want to acknowledge Jeff Bowers. Jeff Bowers has been with the MDC since 2004. Started out as a supervisor, shift supervisor at the wastewater treatment plant in Hartford, and ultimately became the manager, is the manager of the WPC in Hartford. Very active in the wastewater industry and is being awarded the Alfred Peliquin Award, which is the highest honor in our wastewater industry. And he will be awarded the honor in Boston in January, which I will be attending as well. So Jeff has been, and Tom Tyler won this award as well. This award, I mean, just think about the largest wastewater treatment plant in the state of Connecticut, under construction, $600 to $700 million worth of activity going on, and still processing waste from all of our communities is just a great achievement. And Jeff has been a wonderful, excellent employee, and we appreciate everything of him. Some of you may be aware, I did go, Sue Negrelli myself went to, on November 5th, we went to the town of Portland to present our discussion about the water contract with the town of Portland that's expiring on January 26th, 2026. And I gave the same, Susan and I gave the same presentation we have given at the full board and at the Water Bureau. Very positive conversations, no resolution, just trying to educate the town and their new select persons that were voted to the committees. So we are trying to negotiate the next negotiation committee, which is Commissioner Adel, Taylor, and Gardeau, that's assisting us in doing that. So we're trying to coordinate that as well, and hopefully come to some resolution there before the contract ends. I'm just going to mention, I've talked about this a number of times. We're expecting a contract or an agreement that will come to the board for Bushnell South. This is the $3 million that the bond commission approved, and the MDC is going to be the benefit of building a new storm system on Capitol Ave, Hudson area. Chris Stone is working diligently with their attorneys to resolve that, so hopefully we'll be able to bring that to you very shortly. Also, dealing with Westbrook Village. So as you know, another large development here in Hartford, Phase 6. We've been working, the CRDA, State of Connecticut CRDA and OPM gave the development through the Housing Authority $4 million for that development. And as part of that $4 million, there needs to be a new outfall to the river for the development. We've been working on this almost for 4 years now. We just received $445,000 for our permitting fee and inspection fees for that future outfall. And that was a requirement as part of the development, which everybody agreed to. So we have that in hand, and it's a great thing. And hopefully in the next 3 years, that outfall will be built that will serve that development. I do have a little fun fact here. I use these all the time, and I don't even know where they came from, but I was looking for some of these. These are, you stick them onto your phone, you put your credit card or whatever you want in them, and I've asked everybody, where are those things? And we couldn't find them. We found them in some closet, and they're awesome. So I have a lot of them. So I'm charging $10 cash. Anybody wants one? I'll give it to you. No, seriously, anybody wants one? I've got plenty here, so they're great. If you would like one, happy to give it to you. And also, we're meeting on Wednesday, Rita, myself, and Jamie, we're meeting again with the expectation of affirmative action, CHRO approval for our submission August 30th, 2025 for our affirmative action plan. Let me just see what else we got here. And I think that's it. So with that, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions?
We did a lot of work out over at Hartford Hospital that, with that Hudson Street line could connect to that, the work we'd already done.
So if I may, Mr. Chair, so the Bushnell South project, the $3 million that we're getting, the foundation of that project is to build a new storm system in that Capitol Ave area, down Hudson, into the park. We don't know exactly where we're going to connect to the storm system, but down West Street, but in that general area. And so it's the spine, it's the foundation of future expansion. We've already done separation work on Retreat Avenue, which is, just behind the hospital. So this project could be, they're building the new garage at the hospital, as you know. That really doesn't have any impact on this project, but there's multiple projects, master plan. We've met with the hospital a couple of times, trying to work out those master plan issues, but there may be a huge opportunity to connect the hospital redevelopment to this spine that comes, presently it's not going up Hudson, but it could. But details aren't, we haven't done any engineering on that yet, but we're just working with the hospital, and hopefully we can resolve some issues with them and it can all work together.
Very good.
Any other question?
For you to, Scott,
Yes.
is Trinity College going to be, is that another option? Because it comes all the way over to Washington Street.
Yeah.
Problem over at Trinity?
If I may, Mr. Chair. Trinity College, I've been here since 2006 and we've been dealing with Trinity College forever. Trinity College, its footprint, every baseball field, every AstroTurf, it creates more and more problems. And the storm system, the sewer system on Broad Street is, it's just not adequate. And so it's a big problem. It's something we were dealing with actually the judicial recently over the last couple of years. But I would tell you, I just heard this the other day at Gene Holloway's event. Cleaning the streets has done a lot. Cleaning the streets has done a significant, you haven't heard, the city of Hartford, I give them so much credit. They have done such a great job in cleaning the streets, and it's had a significant impact in flooding. And but Broad Street is a major project. I mean, it's such a narrow street, as you know. It's very difficult to do a project on that street. So that's a future project. But Trinity has their own challenges expanding because of the athletic fields that create so much water.
They've developed them around.
Yeah, they have.
Commissioner Salemi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just Item number 8 said update on recent revenue bond sale on the agenda. So is that, weren't we just on item number 8? I'm just asking, that's all. If there isn't one, there isn't one. I'm just,
There is one, but it's on number 8, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
further on down the agenda.
Yeah,
okay. It was listed on 8. I apologize if it got changed, but the agenda I have says on 8. Thank you.
yeah.
Any other questions? Now you-
And-
now you can do the-
Yes, okay, and so I have Jonathan, our CFO, is gonna give a presentation on the bond.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. Oh, yeah, like this. So similar to our September issuance with the general obligation bonds, this is the partner one with the revenue. And we did 50 million on, I want to say the 23rd. Let's see, yep, October 23rd. 50 million straight integrated plan. Moody's and S&P maintained our ratings. And so for this, the comparables, based on the weeks prior to this, we were expecting a total interest cost of around 3.75 to 3.85. In this one, we got 13 bidders, showed that financial institutions are very interested in MDC's debt on the demand side. And we ended up doing even better than expectations when we ended up getting the top 3 at 3.429 and 3.52. So it was better than anticipated. With, once again, Janney Montgomery Scott being the top bidder on this. And so the bid results, MDC selected Janney Montgomery Scott again with the lowest total interest cost, and they won our general obligation bonds. They're extremely comfortable with purchasing our debt. They had a huge volume of pre-sale demand, and that's why they came in with the best price. And it's 20-year long-term debt, and the closing was on November 6th, and that was successful and went without a hitch. So this is just the brief summary of all, so everyone's in the loop, and that's it. Are there any questions?
None?
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, move on now to report from district council.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris Stone, just a couple things. One of them picking up on Scott's comment about Bushnell South. We did prepare a contract for them to review. They've reviewed the contract. I received their comments last week when I was away. I will get back to them this week. And with our response, we should have something ready to go to bring to the board at the December meeting, excuse me. So if that works for the chairman, and the board will get it on the agenda then. As part of that agreement, we were releasing any claim on the Buckingham garage, but we still have the other landfill cases that we're prosecuting. There are two, both relate to the Hartford landfill. One, as you know, under one fee structure, the other one under a revised fee structure. We're in the discovery phase. We're due to trial scheduled for November 2026. As you can imagine, the discovery phase is rather complicated and time-consuming with the number of documents that have to be exchanged, depositions that have to be taken, but we're on course to, we will be ready for trial next fall. We have finally a release that's been approved by all 4 parties in the 2895 Main Street case. That's the, I'll just call it the Max Katari case. It's not, he doesn't own it personally, but it's Max's property over on Main Street that you authorized me to settle last meeting for $50,000 from the MDC. The release has been finalized, and as you can imagine, getting 4 parties to agree on the terms of a 7-page release can be somewhat challenging, but we got there with the help of the mediator and a lot of give and take from everybody. So we're there. Our goal was to get this off the books for 2025. That will be achieved so that we don't have to, it's done. So that's a good thing. We plan on closing on the land swap down at the airport this week. Just to bring some people up to speed, that's the exchange of the old Ash Lagoon that was the MDC's or is the MDC's property at the end of the water pollution control facility on Brainerd Road. It's at the far end, closest to the river, for lack of a better term, the river and the airport. That is, we are exchanging that, giving that to the airport authority in exchange for a identically sized piece along the along the east-west runway that's adjacent to our property, under which we have a significant amount of infrastructure that supports the tunnel and the movement of the sewage from the tunnel on one side of Brainerd Road through the pump station onto the treatment plant facility specifically. So that swap has been a long time coming. There's been some bumps along the way, both in terms of, well, it was signed years ago, but it was signed, we knew it was going to take at least 3 to 4 years before we were done with our project. So it took that into account. Plus we had environmental reports that had to be done. We had 2 issues involving the city of Hartford. The title search of the airport property contained a deed that gave a right of first refusal to the city of Hartford to buy the property for whatever we were buying it for, which obviously had some value in the land. But to the city's credit, and with the help of people in this room who work for the city, I won't mention James Wolf specifically, but they were very cooperative, and they worked with us to get the release of that right of first refusal. So that's first and foremost, we were able to achieve that. Second issue was whether the creating 2 other parcels constituted a subdivision. Once again, we turned to the city of Hartford, and their development department was excellent in terms of finding a way to get around having to go through a subdivision approval process, probably a wetlands approval process and some other things, but getting around that and having an administrative approval of this as really a boundary line readjustment, which is in effect what it is. It's not a subdivision as defined by statute, technically, because no one's going to develop either properties, but the city of Hartford and the mayor's office was very helpful in getting that out of our way too. So all those things are done, and we hope to close this week. And then finally, we just received word, I just received an email from Kelly today regarding the Army Corps of Engineers. I thought they weren't working, but they were working. We got an email from them on November 7th, of this year, which is an update on where we are on their internal accounting. So we have some new information from them, and Kelly's right on it with her staff, and they're going to analyze that and get back to me, Mr. Jellison, and the Army Corps on our response to their latest. It clearly, from the numbers we're seeing so far, and I can't give you the number because they're not final, but if they're in the range of where we're looking at, we have plenty of money in reserve, and more than enough money in reserve to pay the outstanding claim that we ultimately come up with. So that's good news. Hopefully we'll get that done before the end of the year so we can take that off of the books as well. So any questions? I'd be more than happy to answer. Otherwise, thank you.
Question?
Chairman,
Sure.
so on the land swap, is there any liability left with MDC, or everything is cleaned and transferred?
It's all, the environmentals both came out clean. We had to have them done twice. But, to get them updated, because as time goes on, as you know, you have to, they have to be at least cannot be more than 6 months old when you do these kinds of transfers. So they're clean. I was more concerned, quite frankly, about our piece being a former, ash lagoon, in effect a landfill, but it came out great, and our people, Tom Tyler and his staff, were excellent in terms of doing whatever they had to do, make sure that we passed that environmental test. On the airport side, obviously you're concerned about airport fuels and those types of things, but that came out clean as well. And as I said, we've been using that through an easement that we got from CAA for several years now. And so this is really, we've got so much infrastructure down there that having us own that 100-foot strip is in our best interest to own it, rather than have anything else that could possibly occur on that strip. Now, it has very limited development potential because of height restrictions being right near the runway, but we're not using it to expand our facility. We're using it really for the internal underground infrastructure.
Thanks.
So if you remember the answer, it was yes.
There you go. Drag it out.
Are there any other questions? All right, thank you, Chris. Number 10, report on the district bonding and debt.
Mr. Chair. So just a little history here. We've been talking about debt service concerns. Commissioner Gale raised it a number of months ago, but this conversation actually started in 2008 when we were developing how we were actually going to pay for the Clean Water Project. And as some of you may remember, in 2006 we were talking about charging ad valorem for the Clean Water Project. And that didn't go very well with the towns, and general bonds, and then the decision was we did a presentation. We tried to find the copy of it, but we just couldn't seem to find it. But we did a presentation back in 2012 regarding this very issue and the fact that we were moving to solve that problem with bond council. We're moving away from general obligation bonds to revenue bonds. So we've got a few people that's going to be presenting. There's a story here we really need to explain. So we have Jonathan, we have Chris Levesque and Joe LaLiberty, who's been around forever from CDM. So we'll be talking about, how we got to where we are today. So, Jonathan.
Okay. Thank you. Yep. As Scott mentioned, it's going to be me, Chris, and Joe all taking different slides and giving you guys some background on it. First one's the agenda. This is the brief overview of the topics we're going to cover in the slides that we're going to hit upon. Debt limit, bond history, budget, 2014 evaluation of various CIP spending, 2018 shift to integrated plan, and then bonding by fund type, as well as Clean Water Project financing and charge. First one, debt limit and bonding capacity. And so on this, it gives you the background on the debt limit, 5% of the grand list of the 8-member municipalities and that. And just saying revenue bonds, water debt, including IFOs and PLOs are not subject to the debt limit. And then sewer GO bonds, sewer IFOs and PLOs are subject to it. So with this also, just want to bring back to 2013, the Clean Water Project debt was originally paid by issuing GO bonds, which are subject to the debt limit cap. In other words, the CIP plan had sewer debt paying for all the debt with general obligation bonds. As MDC created a strategic plan, it turned a forward-thinking approach to avoid hitting the debt limit cap, as you can see as it starts to move closer from 2013, moving up to 2018, 2019 before it starts to ease back down. In 2018, MDC shifted to the integrated plan that pays for these projects through revenue bonds, which are not subject to the debt limit cap. On this one, just wanted to show a few things on it. Previously went to market numerous times a year, as you could see on the left side with the 2013, and there's quite a few bullets before then 2014, quite a handful of rows as well. And so then in addition to that, the last ban issuance was 2020, and we're shifting from GO bonds to revenue bonds. Since 2020, all bonds issued for the Clean Water Project and integrated plan were revenue bonds. The last GO issuance for the Clean Water Project was in 2019, and it was a refunding of old 2010 GO bonds. So that was just a little history on the bonds, with the 2013 Clean Water Project charge going from GO to revenue bonds due to debt service. The revenue bonds were originally negotiated sales, as MDC was not sure on the market demand for them originally at the start back in 13. And then you see another one in 14, and then nothing really until 2020 when it starts to pop back up again. So the other key point on this one is back in end of 2016, bond sales went from competitive to negotiated, because you'll see that most of them were competitive, and then it will shift to negotiated. And that was because Hartford was on the brink of bankruptcy and ultimately placed in MARB in November of 2017. So that's why you see from competitive to negotiated and then back to competitive. And that MDC is back to competitive sales with numerous financial institutions interested in the debt that leads to good interest rates in our bonds for both GO and revenue sales, as you saw in the prior slide. So next slide, debt service versus total budget trend. Just a few things to note on this slide. Back in 2013, debt service made up 39% of the 161 million budget for debts, or for 161 million budget for the operating budget. In 2025, still 39% of the operating budget is for debt service, and the budget's now 227 for 25. Other key points is debt has increased on the water side over the years while decreased on the sewer side due to the implementation of the integrated plan. You'll see more of this in future slides on 13 and 14. Another important note is the CIP budget went from 75 million to 119 million. And then the final point to bring up on this is for 24, 25, and what's not shown in 26 is that debt service is still 39% of the operating budget. So with that being said, I'll turn that over to the next slide to Joe.
All right, good evening, everyone. Joe LaLiberty with CDM Smith. Nice to see you all. Going down a little bit on memory lane in 2014, as well as the integrated plan in 2018, basically walking through two conscious shifts that the MDC made in those two critical years. 2014, the major shift was in looking at spending more on the wastewater system, which would be done under Avalorem. And in 2018, when I turn over to Chris Levesque, it would be when the shift on spending more on the wastewater system went from Avalorem over to the Clean Water Project charge. So the first one is in 2014. This slide is from 2014. I was here then and presented it with Joe Ridge, who is our economist. He was lucky enough to retire this year, but me, like many of you, are still here. So in 2014, we had looked at, there was a twofold reason as to why we were looking at spending more on the wastewater system. One was there was a lot of failures that started going on. It was happening at a more alarming rate, actual emergency repairs for collapsed sewers in the city of Hartford. And two was your consent decree with the EPA requires you to CCTV all of your sewer system. And we're still working on that today, and Chris will give you an update on that. But as of 2014, you probably had done about 50% of the sewer system, somewhere in that neighborhood. And as we were televising the sewer system, we found a lot of sewers that were in need of repair. So this first slide is looking at, and again, it's from 2014 projecting out. Just want to be clear on that. This is not from today, and it's not showing what you're actually paying today. So this first slide in 2014 was looking at if the MDC had done no sewer repairs, what would happen for how much an average household would pay over time. And basically the blue bar that you see in over time goes from 2014, and we were projecting out, a decade or more. So in 2014, the blue bar is what represents your O&M budget, your actual, repairing the sewer system with the crews that you have. And what we had determined was that if you didn't spend money on the sewer system, you would have to increase your crews in order to repair the sewer system because it would continue to fail at an alarming rate. And we were saying that it could potentially go as much as double within every 9 years. The red bars are the general sewer existing debt service. So that was the debt service that you had. As of 2014, we were projecting it forward and showing that it would start to drop down over time if you didn't incur additional debt. And then the green bars are little slivers that you see only on the far right side of the graphs, which would be new general service projected debt. But because there'd be no money spent on the sewer system, there wasn't a lot of debt that would be added. So this scenario was compared to several other scenarios, 20 million, 40 million, 60 million, and looking at what the MDC should do in lieu of spending zero on the sewer system. So this next slide shows the same, sorry about that. This next slide shows the same graph, again from 2014, where now the blue bar, again, the blue bars are the operation and maintenance, but now this is looking at spending 40 million a year with inflation, so it goes up with time, but 40 million a year on improving the sewer system. This is ultimately the sweet spot that the MDC had decided on. We did look at other scenarios. So you have the red bars now. So the blue bars don't go up as high because there wouldn't be as much O&M as you go forward. It still would increase, but it wouldn't increase as much because you'd be repairing your sewer system. So it should, over time, start to fail less often than if you hadn't spent anything. The red bars should be about the same because it's your existing debt. So if you compare the two, that should be the same. The green bars are showing that now, because you are spending 40 million a year on repairing the sewer system, the green bars are showing your new debt that would get added on top. So these two scenarios were compared. And this next slide shows the sum of all four scenarios that we looked at, again, back in 2014. It was spending $0 on CIP, 20 million, 40 million, 60 million. This slide brings in also the amount that you would spend on your water system. At the same time, you were looking at your water system that was beginning to fail with a lot of breaks. This was the infancy of your program that you now have to replace 10 miles of water main a year. This was the infancy of that, showing that all of the typical household bill from an O&M standpoint, back then it was called the Special Sewer Service Charge, which is, it's now called the Clean Water Project Charge, of course. But it was looking at the water and then the cost ad valorem. And this was showing that over time, we had projected that if you spent money in rehabilitating your aging system, both on the wastewater and the sewer system, what it would look like. And they're very similar. It does cost a little more to spend money on repairing your system, but overall, you're better off with a better system where you're not just out doing an emergency and repairing things. You have a system that you're now, each year, your system is becoming younger and younger because you've rehabilitated it. So again, this table is from 2014. It has the same information that we had there on the bars, but it's shown in table format. What we did do here is we added the 2005 to show you the comparison of where we actually are compared to what we had projected. So again, in 2004, where you wound up landing is you selected the 40 million a year. So we had projected in 2025, as you can see with the $40 million a year, we had projected that the average that the household would pay on the ad valorem system would be $900. A lot of times when we project things, we try to be very conservative so that when you're making decisions, you don't wind up saying, how did this wind up being more? The far right-hand column shows that the actual is 290. So it's much lower than what we had projected and it's even lower than what we were in 2014. But the full story there is because we shifted between 2014 and today, we shifted that burden from ad valorem over to the Clean Water Project charge. So that number 290 is going to show up on a future slide that Chris Levesque is going to give you the total to show the comparison of the Clean Water Project charge and how it has increased over time, including this 290 that the residents had paid. So last slide before I turn it over to Chris. This was now looking at the same data from 2014, looking at the actual charge to ad valorem by town, and then looking at the percent of the town's levy. So the left-hand, not the furthest left is the town, but the next two columns to that was in 2014, what that ad valorem charge was and the percent of the town levy. And then in 2025, we had projected as to what it would be with all of these repairs. So we had projected that there'd be 90 million through ad valorem for all these sewer repairs on the towns, and we projected that the percent of the town levy would increase. And that was part of the decision, the conscious decision to still go in this direction. But in the far right-hand two columns, we show what it actually is today, which is much lower than we had projected, again, mostly due to shifting the burden over the Clean Water Project charge, and that the percent of the town levy is actually a lower percent than what it was back in 2014. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Chris Levesque, who's going to talk about the next major shift that we had in 2018 when we shifted the sewer repairs from ad valorem over to the Clean Water Project charge.
If I may, Mr. Chair. I just want to fill in a little gap here. So the important point of what Joe has mentioned is we were worried about debt service, not just on, general obligational bonds and revenue bonds, but we're also worried about, as Joe mentioned, 2014, we were trying to get EPA and DEEP to consider affordability. An affordability issue is a document, a guideline issued by EPA, and we could not get DEEP to agree that this affordability issue on the ad valorem and the water side had any impact in the affordability of the Clean Water Project. So that's why we were saying, listen, we've got to spend at least $40 million a year. Or if you don't spend $40 million a year, your system gets older and older and older because we're building tunnels and the affordability is to pay for the tunnels. We can not afford to do nothing, because if you do nothing, it's going to hit ad valorem through maintenance and through staffing issues. So that's why this was so important as part of debt service. And then Chris is going to talk about how by getting DEEP from 2014 to 2018, with all the support of our towns, to support the integrated planning process, we were able to shift that burden of this $40 million from ad valorem to the Clean Water Project. Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
Thanks, Scott. So in 2018, we did propose the integrated plan, our reversion of the long-term control plan, to Scott's point, to account for affordability for all of our customers to pay for all of our sewer work. So we looked at that, and understandably, we have to meet our consent decree and consent order requirements within there. So we have to put the best use of that funding that we have and to meet our requirements and make it go as far as possible. So this slide here just highlights one of the areas that we looked at as part of our consent decree with EPA is our CCTV of all of our sewers. So this slide was from 2018, and at that time we only CCTV surveyed 92% of our sewers. The other 8% were in off-road right-of-ways, so out of the public right-of-way, we had to open up the land, clear the trees, get access to the manholes. And to date, we're just a little less than 3% left of our system that we still have to do. So there's really two of our towns that we really have to get into, but that'll close that requirement out. But the idea behind this was to address prior to 2018 and developing this plan, we identified about $450 million worth of sewer repairs. And that's just to go make the repairs, not to rehab the sewers, remove the I&I. So we looked at that and said, all right, how best do we do that? And one of the things that we really wanted to do was renew the system, because that was one of the key objectives that we had, was to ensure that these pipes have a longer life period with lining, and also we can meet our consent decree and consent order requirements for the removal of the infiltration and inflow. One of the key points I want to make is up until 2017 until now, we've had a great working relationship with all the towns and City of Hartford in our member towns and coordinating our paving program. So at that time, even leading up to and getting our IP plan approved, we were lining approximately 15 miles of pipe, just coordination with our town paving programs. And this had a huge benefit. One, make sure that the sewers didn't fail right after the town paved, but we did progress this through. And we were able to address a lot of these types of repairs that you're seeing in here. Sorry, moving on to the next one. So as part of this plan, in 2018, we looked at it as far as our goal as part of the IP in 2043 was to reduce the average age of every sewer in our member towns. So projecting that out, what we did do, and we modified this slide, and we presented this slide a number of times back in 2018, but we did add one new column in there. So the end of 2025 projection. So a lot of this work has been going on in conjunction with our town paving programs, as well as the work we're doing in North Hartford, as well as the West Hartford SSES lining and other consent order requirements in our towns as well. So we've greatly reduced that, and we'll continue to do this over the next couple of years. So moving on, we had two primary options going into our long-term control plan. As Scott mentioned a number of times, one of the options was to build very large tunnels, collect everything, and ignore the local collection system in all of our towns. And don't invest, just keep on making repairs as things break, but build new infrastructure, build capacity, build new pump stations, those type of things. So we shifted from that in 2018 and said, you know what, we're going to focus on separation of our communities. So we evaluated scenario 1 and scenario 2 as part of our new integrated plan approach. So moving through, this was the comparison in 2018 of what we were projecting out as part of this, and this all comes back to how we were shifting the debt service, that capital investment from ad valorem to the Clean Water Project, and this is what we were projecting out in 2025, this second set of columns from between scenario 1 and scenario 2. So we ended up choosing scenario 2 with the rehab, but what we were projecting out back then was even $812 for the average household to spend between their ad valorem, so their sewer tax assessment that they pay through their property taxes, and the Clean Water Project charge on an average. And currently, right now, the average household across the district is paying about $747 total. So we've made a lot of great efforts in controlling those costs, but also delivering the services needed to make sure we have that level of service for all of our customers. With that, I'll turn it over to Jonathan to finish.
Thank you, Chris. Next slide. Capital improvement program budget percentage by fund from 2013 to 2015. And this picks up back where slide 5 left off. Debt's tied to capital projects. As more capital projects are being started and ultimately completed, the 20-year loan amortization of debt service goes into their respective debt service upon completion. So with this, sewer capital projects are dropping due to the forward thinking and strategic planning of implementing the integrated plan. So the sewer capital projects originally were 46%, as you'll see in the first column, 2013, 46, the brown shaded area. And now they're only 19% in the 2026. So it goes from 46% all the way to 19% at the end of this slide. The water capital projects were originally in blue. They're at 32% in 2013 and then 37% in 2026. So you can see the shift from sewer CIP to IP in 2023 on that, with the IP budget now being 33% of 2026. And so you'll see that on 23 to 26, the brown shaded area, where that spikes to, or where that starts at 32% and then moves around until it hits around 33. Next slide, capital improvement program, general obligation bond issuance percentage by fund for 2013 to 2025. With this, it's saying that the GO bond sewer debts decreased over the last few years due to the IP plan and issuance of revenue bonds instead of GO bonds. It doesn't include the, this slide doesn't include the integrated plan or Clean Water Project revenue, but it's also to show from 2013, you could see sewer was 60%, and then at the end, it's only 27%. And then water was 24% back in 13, and then it's moving all the way up to 61%. So as the sewer projects are dropping, the water ones are increasing on that. The only odd one to talk about is the 2015B. That bond did not have any sewer projects, as 35 million in clean water project notes were reallocated in October of 2015 to sewer CIP. Next slide. This is just to show a hypothetical example of a $10 million capital project and how it would be funded. If we had to do it straight with GO bonds, the interest can increase, it can be around, or it can be up to 5%. And the $10 million project would cost around $15 million. If we get clean water funding from the state, we can, the interest rate would only be 2%. And so that would save MDC and its ratepayers more money. So it would only be around $12 million. And then the last piece was if we can even get a grant piece on top of that, typically they're 30%, and then that would drop it to a little over $8 million. So we just wanted to show the different types of funding.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, and there was a number of questions about our debt service is getting so high. Maybe we should think about pay-going something, right? And this slide is to explain you can pay-go, but here's the impact to your ad valorem. And we are, in a sense, pay-going because our biggest challenge in the future is not the ad valorem side, it's the water side. And we are putting monies in the last number of years, rate stabilization fund, putting monies aside to help that. But the water is becoming, it will become over the next 20 years, the major issue we have with debt service. Sorry, Jonathan.
Okay, and the second to last slide is just a overview, high-level view of the clean water charge flow chart. And that customers are billed the clean water project charge. Customers' payments are sent to the pooled cash, transferred to the revenue fund. Transfers are made to the revenue bond debt service accounts, and remaining funds are transferred to the rate stabilization fund, as Scott was mentioning on that. So that's how MDC collects the money from the ratepayers in order to pay the revenue bond debt service. Any questions?
Question.
How come revenue bonds are included in the total allowable debt we're clicking in?
Jonathan, did you hear the question?
Didn't hear that, I'm sorry.
How come revenue bonds are included in the total amount of debt we can get?
How it's, you mean subject to the cap is what you're talking about, right? I believe it's because they're an enterprise fund, and with that, the water fund is self-sufficient where they have to charge what it is, and revenue bonds aren't backed at the full collateral of the organization. They're just up against future proceeds.
Debt. Isn't it still debt though?
Oh yeah, we still have to record it. There's.
I understand, but we're really raising that part of our debt. Yeah. And what happens if this CW fund goes away because
big problem
politically we get new people, the state goes out of business.
Yay.
Chris.
The bond indebtedness, the cap that you referred to, applies to debt that has the full faith and credit not only of the MDC but of our 8-member towns behind.
That is correct. Thank you.
The cap's about making it's really a safeguard for the member towns that we don't go hog wild on debt that they ultimately could be responsible for. On the revenue side, there's a specific revenue source that's been identified, like on the Clean Water Project. It's the fund that we've established, the reserve fund that we established to pay the indebtedness on those clean water revenue type bonds. That's the difference. Clear as mud.
Yeah, I was just wondering if this report presentation will be somewhere so that we could go back and reference it or not.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
And then it looks like I mean, we've been doing a really excellent job on keeping our water rates down and our ad valorem down, but it appears like in the future the most difficult thing is being as efficient as possible on our clean water so that those rates don't go sky high because even though that's the clean water, I think it relates to the customer in the same way. It still hits their pocketbook. So maybe in the future, possibly we could get some additional information on how we keep it down and what you guys are doing to keep the rates down as best as possible. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Gale, did you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think Mr. Stone answered this question. I just want to repeat it so I'm understanding it better, because I didn't understand this difference between revenue bonds and general obligation bonds either. Do I understand on general obligation bond, each one of the towns is also signing on so that if the MDC didn't pay, the town would have to pay the bond?
They're not signing on. We're signing on as a entity that is comprised of 8-member towns. They put their full faith and credit behind the NDC, and therefore they put their full faith and credit behind those bonds. If the NDC doesn't pay, which is very unlikely, but in the event that happens, the beneficiaries of those bonds would have been the member towns and the infrastructure within those member towns. So indirectly, they're affected.
Still not quite clear.
Well, you asked whether they sign on to the bonds. They don't sign on.
Well, I guess I'm just trying to understand philosophically, why did somebody make a difference between a general obligation bond and a revenue bond? Somewhere at some point in the history of this organization, set up that you had a cap on your general obligation. But it sounds to me like there's no real significant difference if it's the MDC signing each one of the bonds.
Well, remember that they pay an ad valorem tax. The ad valorem tax includes within that payment for debt service. And if we were allowed to exceed a certain amount, whatever, I don't even know what the cap is now.
5%.
Yeah,
5%. If we exceeded that 5% of the total grand list of the towns, then that increases the burden on those towns on the ad valorem. So they wanted, back 1929, they wanted a check on what we could finance through bonding on our sewer side of our project, of our
So
house.
this really comes down to the ad valorem. The cap is the amount we can bond that gets paid for through the ad valorem.
Correct.
Correct.
And the revenue bonds are not paid for through the ad valorem.
Correct.
Yes.
And the revenue bonds are paid for either by the water revenues, or the Clean Water Project.
Correct.
Correct.
Got it. Much clearer. Thank you. Second question, if I may. I heard the figure at some point during the presentation that the amount of our debt service was 39% of our budget. What I didn't hear was any comparison to how the MDC compares with either other water companies or anything that's comparable to us in terms of a percentage of your total budget. Do we have any idea as to whether we're doing better, worse, about the same as other entities in terms of the amount of bonding and debt service that we have?
I mean, Mr. Chair. If you remember, compare ourselves to ourselves, if you remember the presentation we did at the management study, the 2003 management study, in 2003, the MDC was bonding less than $5 million a year in construction activity. So the Clean Water Project, the consentors had a lot to do with what we're spending today. We've shifted away from general obligation bonds that are affecting ad valorem to the integrated plan, as we talked about. But I don't have the answer. I can only tell you that the MDC, as you know, we have spent almost $2 billion on the Clean Water Project.
No, I get you. I know we're spending a lot.
I don't have those, but we don't have those.
Compare.
We can get you that, but we don't have, compared to other communities. In Connecticut, no one has spent $2 billion. In New England, no one has spent $2 billion.
I get that. I take it, and it may very well be that, I mean, the answer to this question probably has a lot to do with the interest rate that we're paying. And whether on the bonds, it seems to me, if we were bonding more than our neighbors, then we would have to pay more in interest rate. So I'll ask it that way. Do we know what the interest rates that we're paying on these bonds? Are we at the high end, low end, middle range for comparable bonds being issued by water companies?
Jonathan, you can answer that.
No, I'd say it's comparable based on our rating and also at the time of the market. And since we have a lot based on the consent order, that's why we're having all these projects and ultimately roll up on debt service. So I think if you were to even look at comparables, if they're not on consent order to do all these different projects, their debt service isn't going to be as high as ours is.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Torres.
Yeah, I guess in trying to sort this out in my own mind, it seems to me that the only, I guess through you, the only real comparable numbers that we could get would be by comparing similar municipalities with consent orders that that then we could compare what they're spending versus what we're spending on similar kinds of consent decrees. Is that what we would have to do?
If I may, yes, the only problem is there might be a few, and I'll use MWRA in Boston. They are a wholesale wastewater organization, so they own the treatment plants in Deer Island. They have about 60 some odd communities that they serve, but they have the main trunk sewers that come to the plant. They don't own the pipes in the streets of Boston. Boston does, right? But they haven't spent $1 billion on their clean water consent order, and they are much, much larger than us. But there's not too many organizations our size in the country that are both water and sewer spending as much money as we are on the water and sewer. So you can find new, I would say, and Joe Liberty could tell you this, Norwich is probably the first town in Connecticut to actually spend significant money. They've got a $120 million pump station that they're designing now, Joe? Treatment plant, sorry. So, but Bridgeport is not doing, they're doing lining. There's not a lot of work going on in the state except the MDC. They are doing some work, but not billions of dollars, you know. And as we presented at last year's budget, our debt service, we added $5 million to the water and $500,000 to the sewer. So we're shifting everything away from ad valorem debt service, as we showed, to the integrated plan.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Mantek?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I know we're not comparing apples to apples, but I'm just wondering our towns and what their debt service is to their budget as well. I just think it would be interesting to know what our town, each of our 8 towns, what their percentage is. Again, I know we're not comparing apples to apples, but I think it would be very interesting to just see what they're carrying.
That's not hard to find because all the towns have to post their budgets on their website. So that shouldn't be too hard to find. And you're saying of the 8-member
Yeah,
municipalities?
of our 8-member towns, I think that, yeah, I think that would be very interesting to just look at that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Chris.
Very quickly, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris Stone, Jonathan, one of the things that, and to Commissioner Mandyke's point, you know, we're a municipality, but we're a public works agency, as opposed to a town which has other functions. They're not so heavily public works laden with projects, capital projects, and things that we do that no one else does, and certainly those who do it don't do it any better than we do it. That being said, we do have an independent or 2 independent entities that analyze us and analyze our bonding structure, our bonding amounts, our bonding capacities, and they rate us every year, and that's Standard & Poor's and Moody's.
Yep.
And we should probably send out the most recent analysis by them, and they go through painstakingly, and I sat in on these meetings, what is our debt, what is our indebtedness, what's our capacity, where do we fall within the category of public utilities as opposed to municipality generally, where do we fall as a public utility entity in terms of our bonding, approach to bonding, and most importantly, the bottom line is our rating by those agencies has maintained itself and been stabilized over the past several years, that gives us a sense of, and the numbers you can really, they're confusing for me. But those rating agency results give us some sense that we're doing things right. And I think if we circulated that most recent memos from our analyses, we probably have, but let's do it again, from S&P and Moody's, you'll see they do an analysis of our debt.
Yeah, what Chris mentions, and they even state it, they say, we understand that your debt is high, but it's based on your consent orders that you have to do all these capital projects. And so they understand that's the big driving force on the debt service.
And I've said this in the past, and I'm being funny, but I'm not. There's a way to lower the 39% to raise the budget. We could raise the budget, and we haven't, right? We have had zero increase in ad valorem in 4 years. So if we raise the budget, then the 39% would be lower.
Right.
But we could, if that's that important. The important part is you have no choice, right? That was the important part of the presentation, the 40 million. If you do nothing, zero, you spend nothing, you're going to spend $40 million a year, is about $2 million in debt service payments. If you spend nothing, you'll spend $2 million a year in maintenance with additional staff or additional emergency repairs. And that's the whole logic of that part of the presentation. Spend zero, spend $2 million in ad valorem, spend $40 million, spend $2 million a year in debt service. And so you have no choice. The system is old, it's fallen apart. You cannot catch the curve. We presented this a long time ago, multiple times at the presentation for the management study. You can't add enough staff to catch the curve. The system is too old, it's falling apart. The only way to solve the infrastructure's age is to put new pipe in the ground as quickly as possible.
Any other questions? Thank you all.
Oh, yeah, I'd love that.
Next, number 11, Committee on Organization, Consideration, Potential Action, Reappointment of Commissioner to Committees. Chair recognizes Chair, Committee on Organization, Commissioner Buell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Earlier this evening, the Committee on Organization met to consider the appointment of Commissioner Payne to the following committees: Bureau of Public Works, Internal Audit, PPI, and Strategic Planning. And this is partially or almost entirely a result of filling in the gaps left by Commissioner Stuber, who resigned recently. So the committee accepted this and voted to bring it to the board unanimously to adopt the resolution.
Is that a motion?
Do I have a motion? Or I'm making the motion?
You're making the motion.
Why not?
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 12, Board of Finance, Consideration, Potential Action, Amendment of Project Loan and Grant Agreement, CWF 692C. Chair recognizes Acting Chair Commissioner Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the Finance Committee met and took care of business having to do with these loans and grants. And of course, it was unanimously put forward by the Committee on Finance. Unanimous.
Motion?
Yes. Make a motion to have the board accept that as presented.
Second.
Discussion? Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Next, Bureau of Public Works, Consideration, Potential Action, Acceptance of Sewers Built by Developers Permit Agreement. Chair recognizes Chair Hoffman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Public Works met on the 27th of October Once again, the action taken was unanimous by the Committee on Public Works regarding the developer's proposals.
And a motion.
Move acceptance of that action.
Second.
Thank you.
Question? All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. The next two items on the agenda, 14 and 15, unfortunately, at the last PPI committee meeting, there were several committee members who were out of town or at work and could not attend. So to expedite the need to, for the benefit of both the bargaining unit members as well as the MDC, we put this on tonight's agenda. So I think, Scott, I'm going to turn it to you. 14.
Yes, thank you.
Consideration, potential action, revision of job specifications.
Yes, thank you. Jamie Harlow could not be here tonight, so I'm standing in for her. So I'll just give a quick brief on each one of these jobs. The first 14 is revising existing jobs. So the help desk coordinator, this is a position that we've been struggling to fill because of the requirements of educational requirements. And I have an article here which MDC's been doing this since I got here in 2006. As you know, I mentioned Jeff Bowers. He was started out as a supervisor and now the manager. Years ago when I first got here, you could not be a manager unless you were an engineer or you were a licensed CPA or what have you. So there's a lot of conversations through COVID that companies are lowering their standards and more looking at skill set versus college education. So we've been struggling, and most of you know, struggling with your iPads. You have the help desk, and what we'll do is we bring in consultants, the help desk consultants. We educate them on the MDC way, and they become more educated, and then they go off and make more money. And it's very difficult for us to keep the help desk coordinators that are working for a contractor with the MDC for continuity. So we're creating and changing the job so that we can revise the range and we can revise the requirements so that the help desk coordinator we can keep in-house. The second one is principal account clerk, which again is 3713. This again required a 2-year degree. Created a difficult time for us to get people with that degree, and we added language that allows us to accept skill set and qualifications based on history of their work environment. A utility maintenance supervisor. These are the repair crew, the people that you see in the middle of the night fixing water and sewer pipes. This group, for parity reasons, we're proposing to make them SS6s, which they are 5s at this point because of parity with other supervisors. We felt it was fair to raise them to a 6. Some of these jobs, including this one, came as part of the help desk coordinator, the supervisors, the principal account clerks. A lot of this conversation came from the climate survey. We had a lot of conversations from staff or managers of departments about these issues, and some of these resolutions that we're proposing to you is to resolve issues that came out of the climate survey. The communications and public relations program managers, again, this is upgrading this position from our communications staff to, again, parity with years ago, the communications staff really just dealt with PR-related issues, and now they're heavily involved in the construction activity as it relates to the Clean Water Program, as it relates to all of our programs, billing, all those good things associated with communicating with the outreach teams. So it's a parity issue, bringing our communications staff up to a level that is comparable to their peers doing work in other departments. And that is number 14.
Question, Commissioner Torres.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, so are we to assume then that the unions that these positions are in are okay with these changes? They're all on board?
If I may, Mr. Chair, yes, all of the jobs that are here in front of you, we need the unions to agree. So these job descriptions actually went to the board of the union, and they review it and approve it. So yes.
And the second thing, is there any significant budget impact with these upgrades or changes?
None. I can't say none. You said significant. No. I mean, when you're talking about these upgrades, roughly, someone might get a $2,500 raise over the year, or a $3,000 raise. The steps are about, roughly that, and so it's an insignificant impact to our budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? I have just a few. Following Commissioner Torres' lines, these new classifications, these new job specs do allow for some upward mobility.
Yes, absolutely. If you look at the help desk coordinator, again, just bringing young people in to learn our system, our SAP system, our security system, and then having their opportunity to grow into our IT department is tremendous. Same thing with principal account clerks. Really, cash management is important. We need to provide people opportunity to move up in the system, and we're growing the communications department. North Hartford, as you know, has been a tremendous workload on everybody at the district. And we're growing. We just added an administrative staff person, Retina Smith. She just started last Monday. So they've never had an administrative support. They have that now. And yeah, there's lots of opportunity for growth.
Okay, my second question regarding the principal accountant clerk.
Yes.
Was the language, the verbiage revised to open up the process for those applying?
The answer is no, because the position had already been approved by the board, by the union. But I have the statistics on that one, Commissioner, and I believe, if I can find it, I think your concern was it says that you need knowledge of MDC billing systems. But the last four individuals, so if you're from the outside and 3713 jobs go to the outside, the concern the chairman had was, does that limit the ability to hire from the outside? The answer is no. One, because we have a union agreement that allows us to go to the outside with 3713, which was approved in 2018. And the last four were hired from the outside, and we just are hiring 2 internal. So it is I understand your concern about the limiting factor, but they're okay with it, and we are.
All right.
Okay.
I'm just curious how someone from the outside would meet the qualifications of the job description if they didn't have prior working knowledge of MDCs.
Yeah, I understand.
All right. All right.
And I do have a slide, Julie, sorry, Victoria. We can show this now or later, but there was a concern raised at PPI about, there was a concern about the parity of jobs that have come to PPI, the full board. And there was a concern about there wasn't recent or 184 jobs that were coming to the board. So we have just a little statistics here to show, and then number 15 will address this. So this is since 2015. As you remember, in 2015, the majority of our union negotiations was to develop multitasking job descriptions for the union 184 because they were our largest workforce. And we had, we good? Okay, yes, that's okay. And we had, so this just shows the majority of those changes in 184 occurred in that 2015 timeframe, right up to 2018, and we've had a few that have occurred recently, but a lot of them occurred in that 2015 contract. And then subsequent, we didn't have multitasking job descriptions until later with the other two unions. So, but this is the parity between, since 2015, we've brought 63 from 184, 51 from 1026, and 37, 13, 67. So those numbers represent a combination of jobs that were multitasked into less jobs, and jobs that were created. So those are the numbers from 2015. And I'm done with.
Sure.
Any other questions? Chair recognizes, for purposes of the motion, Chair recognizes Chairman of PPI, Commissioner Taylor.
I move these items. Mr. Chairman, through you.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, number 15, consideration potential action, approval of new job specifications. Scott?
Yes, thank you. Again, a climate survey. So as part of the exercise going through the climate survey, one thing that became apparent to me in meeting with multiple staff by department, by sub-department, by individuals. As you know, we painstakingly revised and upgraded our SAP system starting in 2016, finalized it in 2020. And we created, the one thing we learned about that exercise within the industry was the way in which you maintain that system forever is to make sure you're constantly managing your business processes to make sure that people are utilizing the system the way it was intended, or modify it as needed so that you can, because you change every day, we're changing the way we do things to become better and more efficient. So we had, during the BET or during the upgrade, we probably had 100 of our staff or more working on this on a part-time basis. And we created this BET team, which again was part-time. We had people, in a sense, donating their time, doing their own job, and meeting on a regular basis to make sure that everyone's following processes and all those good things. As part of the climate survey, it was apparent to me that we really need this BET team to be full-time. And so this is a new job that is really basically comparable to a project manager at the MDC in the engineering department, which will be utilized to create a team that all as they do is making sure that our business processes match our system. And, we're in the process of looking to go to the cloud. So that's a whole nother project. We have to upgrade our Esri system because of GIS. There's lots of work that has to be done, and it really needs to be staff focused on this on a full-time basis. So that's a new position that we do not have as of yet. And then the cash management, debt management administrator, again, this position really does, it's a step up, it's a stepping stone for MDC staff it adds the cash debt service management to the existing job. We want to keep the existing job because it's a succession planning for Treasury Department. And that's, and then we have another very important one, 184. Again, we haven't had a lot of 184 job changes because we did the majority of that in 2015. But the one thing that I heard throughout the climate survey, ironically, was there was a lot of internal strife within each union. So it was there was a lot of unions internal staff upset within the union itself. And I'm going to give you this example. In the multitasking job description, we used to have a pipe joiner, and that was an entry-level person, person off the street, no CDL required. And then you went right to a compressor operator. You needed a CDL to drive the truck, right? In 2015, we got rid of the pipe joiner. We created utility maintainer 1, utility maintainer 2. So everybody comes in off the street. You have to have a CDL. So in that process, one thing I learned in communicating with the staff, there was a lot of concern for the older UM2s that might be here for 15 or 20 years, and their feeling was, the UM1s are coming in, and then they automatically get upgraded to a UM2. So now I'm here 15 years, senior, and I'm working aside of a person who's only got 2 years in, and that's not fair. So that was one issue. The other issue was, and I know the board has said this multiple times, that we really need an entry-level job that doesn't require a CDL. The challenge with that is, like we had in the past, you bring in someone, a young person, that doesn't have a CDL, but their next stepping stone needs a CDL, and they don't get a CDL, now what? And that's what happened to the MDC over the years. That position, that pipe joiner, was stagnating the company. We couldn't move people in to repair and sewers because there were people in the entry-level pipe joiner position. So we came up with a concept with the unions, 184, which solved two problems. What the union agreed to is, instead of letting that UM1 go to a UM2 in 2 years, let's make it 4. We said, fine, that sounds great. Then let's bring in this new job. We call it a POIT, positioning training. We have this in other places at the water treatment and wastewater treatment plant. The Try-A-Trade program has been phenomenal. We've hired a lot of kids from the tech high schools and schools in the area. So we bring these young people in through that program or off the street, and then they sit in this POIT position, and they have to get their CDL. And we, as we said before, MDC will pay for that CDL up to $5,000. We're working to get that CDL training on site. That's a whole different animal with DOT Fed. So that's a challenge we're working through. But we will pay for that $5,000. And then after that individual gets their license, after 3 years of experience, they can then post for the UM1, which is great. And we also added some other issues in there. We agreed to fill 3 crew leader positions. One of them was already filled, and so we have 2 more. So this is a great position for the MDC. It's a great position for the union. This position will be doing maintenance. They'll be working in every department, hydrants, gates, repair, sewer, meters, everything. They'll be learning command center. And so we'll have young people coming through this program, getting their CDL, and then moving up into the UM series, or they can move to the FM series. So that's a facility maintainer. That's working on the facility side, cutting grass and other building maintenance, facility maintenance type things. So those are the 3 new positions that we're asking to be approved.
For purposes of a motion for discussion, Chair recognizes Chairman Taylor.
I move this particular issue, item 15.
Second.
Question,
Mr. Payne?
Mr. Chairman? Thank you. Thank you. Scott, I think this is an excellent idea, bringing the younger people in, providing that CDL training for them. Will you be instituting any requirements that once you get this CDL and you pay this CDL for them, will they be required to stay so long? Otherwise, they have to pay back the cash for the CDL. Is there anything like that?
No, but one important point and I'm a huge fan of young people shouldn't have their CDL until they're 21. But what we are concerned about is, and that's why we put the 3 years in. So you come in, you work 3 years. If you're coming out of high school, you're only 18. So we want a mature CDL person. So that's the goal, to give them 3 years. If they don't get their CDL, when they get their CDL, we do not want them just driving a truck. Just because they get the CDL doesn't mean they can drive a truck. They have to be a UM1 to drive the truck. Just like the pipe joiners, even if they got their CDL and they were pipe joiner, they couldn't drive the truck. They have to be in that UM1 series position. We don't have anything like that for, if they leave in the next 3 years. The goal for us is, and that's why the Tri-Trade program is so important, the one thing we don't want to do is hire young people that can't get their CDL or they can't get their license at the water or wastewater treatment plant. We've been very successful at the wastewater and water treatment with the Tri-Trade program. We want to continue that. So the goal, the way to achieve that is to hire the right candidates, the young people who have the aptitude that can pass these tests, because they're not easy, but they're not, CDL is not that difficult, but you need to have a mechanical, mindset. And so we're looking to make sure the Tri-Trade program vets these young people from the technical high schools, from the high schools, from our communities.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Does this change the head count that of the MDC, which was like 480 something, or does it just move the that number around to these positions? What does it create? More head count?
Yes. So the answer is no, that we budgeted. So we actually, I proposed this to the unions in March, and we're just here now getting this resolution. And at the time, we had planned, in budget process, we had planned to put aside positions for the entry-level job. So no, it's all included in the budget. We have 4 positions in our budget for this, and if it gets approved, we'll have 4. And the goal would be, we have 6 crews. On any given day, you really don't have 6 crews. You got vacation, sick time, holidays, you got the 2 o'clock rule. So on most occasions, you're filling 5 crews. But these young people the goal would be eventually to have 6. We didn't agree to that with the union because we don't want to, I can't commit the board to any number, right, of specific positions, because that's a budgetary issue, right? The board approves how many positions we have. So, but the goal would be to have a POIT on every crew if it's 6, but they'll be rotating. So they'll be rotating onto a sewer truck, a repair crew, hydrants, gates, meters.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Motion carries. On now to number 16, consideration, potential action, settlement of pending litigation, CL&P, Eversource versus MDC. Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No need for executive session at this point, if I may. Chris Stone, District Counsel. Back in February of 2023, there was an incident out on Laurel Street in Hartford, at the intersection of Laurel and Farmington Avenue. The incident related to a CL&P piece of infrastructure and the MDC's MDC piece of infrastructure. Something happened out there on February 3rd, 2023, that even to this day, no one knows whether it was the MDC's fault and our damaged area caused the damage to the CL&P's infrastructure, or whether it was CL&P's infrastructure that caused damage to the MDC infrastructure. And no number of experts have been able to who exactly was at fault. In any event, back in February of this year, 2025, a lawsuit was brought by CL&P claiming upwards of $653,000, $683,000 in damages. Aside from the amount of the claim and the basis of the claim, which we certainly contested, the liability on the claim was certainly questionable. In response to that lawsuit being brought, we brought a counterclaim against them for our damages. That only amounted to $53,000. It just shows you how efficient our staff is as compared to CL&P. But all things being equal, we've had some serious discussions with CL&P over the past several weeks. They've decided, and we agree, subject to your approval, that both sides are fighting a battle that either someone's going to lose really big or no one's going to win at all. So that being said, I'm asking you tonight, but for the fact that we brought a counterclaim, I could have settled this case on my own because they don't want any money. But we did bring a counterclaim, so I'm bringing it to you because one of the aspects of the settlement is they give up their 683, we have to give up our 53. It certainly seems like a good exchange for me, from my perspective. But you're also, I just want to explain that not only is there a liability at issue, but there's also our costs at issue. And there's a significant, we have a $250,000 retention on this. We'll probably end up paying that if we go to trial. We may win, we may lose, but this is good insurance against a possible $683,000 claim. It also gets it off the books in 2005, which Jonathan likes for me to do all the time. So it'll be off the books for this year, and we start fresh next year. So I strongly recommend that you approve this settlement.
Chair will entertain a motion.
You could recognize James.
Really?
I won't make the motion. I just want to put on the record that I represent CL&P, Eversource Energy, and other pending litigation. Not this, obviously, and I'm not giving away anything confidential. It's a matter of public record that I do. But just wanted to explain that to the board, to explain that I'd be abstaining from the vote just to avoid any appearance of impropriety. But I wanted to let the board know why I would be abstaining, and that is the reason why. So
Thank you for that information.
Thank you.
Chair, make a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
I hear a
when they
voice.
make the claim, do they have to
Mr.
justify?
Patel, Patel.
Yes. Do they have to justify and provide you the proof of payroll expenses they incurred in the process?
If I might, this would be a global settlement of both claims. They don't have to prove their damages because they're not claiming nor getting any damages. We're not getting any damages for our claim. It's merely an exchange of releases. We release them from any claim. They release us from any claim. I'm glad you asked the question because it gives me the opportunity to thank our district staff for their support. These cases aren't settled by just lawyers. We have support from experts within the MDC and Chris Levesque and his crew, Dave Ruddy, your CEO. They all contribute to our ability to attack, defend, and settle cases like this. So thanks to them as well.
Jason Pretemps was.
And Jason Pretemps, of course. Sorry, Jason, if you're listening. Jason Pretemps.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Takes us down to opportunity for general public comments. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board on any item? Seeing none, Commissioner request for consideration of future agenda items.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would just like to request that we get an update from about the Park River study and what's going on with that and what's happening. And then if we could, I just wanted to make sure that I'd just like to know with the Unitex coming in over Warmie, I'm just wondering if they start to hit some of the thresholds as far as our water, how much water we're anticipating.
That's something for a future agenda item?
Well, or just a question answered, I guess, maybe. I forgot it when the CEO was giving his report.
Just give him a call.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Unlike Joan, I only had 10 weeks of Latin, so I'm not ending my meeting with any strange foreign language. So with that, we've completed the agenda, and this meeting is adjourned.
Objection.